Hi, and welcome back. My name is Johan, and we are looking at graphs. If you haven't seen the video from last week, you should go back and look at that. That's where we set up the basic custom component and make sure that the data from a demo graph is working properly. In this video, we're going to supply our own data to the graph, and we're going to do that from regular data flex. So here we have our graph, and we got some different data in our JavaScript. But now we do not want this data. We actually just want an empty object here. And we are going to create a new data set that we can send here. So let's go about doing that. And where we call this is in the static page and in the on show. So here we would like to have an extra parameter, like is JSON. So we need to add a string is JSON to our function, and then we need to figure out how to fill that with data. And we also need a Boolean. We found, because we're going to do some old-fashioned clear move finds. I'm actually going to do this using the Dataflex basic way of doing things, not SQL queries and stuff like that. You could always do SQL queries to collect data as well, but that's not for this video. If you have a workspace that doesn't have a SQL database in the backend, and you can always use this in Dataflex. Integer IDX JSON. So we need an object where we can kind of store the data, and we also want an array of category. Yeah, so that is a struct, and we need to define the struct as well. And it contains a string category and an integer called count. So these are the data components we want to send to our JavaScript. So we should go into our JavaScript and also update the value to count and the category to no, the country should be category instead. Yeah. These are the only changes we need to make here to make sure that we get the right data into our pie chart. And now we want our T category, and we want an array of those, and we call them category objects. And now I would like to, second. We also want an S category, so we can save the string name. Then we move star to S category, This is just a temporary value, and I move 0 to our IDX, and then I clear item, which is the table that we want to work with. Find greater or equal item by index 3, and that's because if we go into the table structure here and look at the indexes, you can see that index 3 is category ID. So when I count, I want to count until the category changes. And if I loop through the index of categories, it will sort them by category. And when the category changes, I know that there are no more categories of that type. So that's why I do it this way. Found to be found, and while we found, we could probably use the found directly here, but it's good practice to use be found, because as you do things, this found can be updated in many different ways. So it's always good to store it as soon as you got it into a separate variable. If is category not equals item dot category, and they won't, since the first category is a star to begin with. Then we also want to check if the is category not equals star, because we don't want to save an object on the first change. But every second change, we actually want to move the is category to category object IDX category, and we want to move the I count to category object IDX IDX dot count, and then we want to increment IIDX. Then on every iteration, we want to take the item dot category and move that to S category, and we want to move 0 to I counter. So we reset the I counter, and then as we go down the loop, we want to increment the I counter, and at the end we want to do a find, more or less the same as here. Copy those. Apart from, we don't want to find the equal, we just want to find the greater than. So when this loop is done, we just want to move the last items we got, the last values, into our array object. And then we're going to get, create, JSON object, h code JSON. What this does is it creates a class of the type JSON. So we can now use that, send data type to JSON. JSON. And the object that we want to send is the category object. Now set white space JSON to JP space spaced. This is just defining the JSON how we want to present it, and in this case it's easier to read if it's spaced. And then we do a get stringify JSON to JSON. So this stores the data that we've got from the category object into the JSON string, and then sends it to our update graph. So now we need to make sure that our update graph object is actually taking the JSON in, it's JSON data, and it should have a string array params, and we want to move the sjson data to a params 0, and then we send the a params over to the client action. So now we move over to the client, and that's the update graph. In the update graph, we're going to put sjson data. And when we get the JSON data, we want to do var JSON object equals to JSON parse is JSON data. And when we got the JSON data, we can always do a console log JSON data object to see what it contains, and then we update our chart.data with the JSON object like that. And the chart data refers to the chart up here, but there's another thing that you want to be very careful with in this sense, because we create our chart data here, but when you copy the code has a var chart as well, and you don't want that, because then you're not going to get the data into the graph. And if we remove that, we're actually storing things in the same. So when I update down here, I put the data in the same object as I do up here. So that will work. Otherwise, you'll just get a blank page. And there you have it. Now we have our renovation, and we have our clothes and decorations, food, holidays. Yeah, we can see that there are some called holidays and some called holiday, which we might want to consolidate. Uh, and that's all for this video. Now we have a graph and we have some tiles that we can click on. And in the next video, we're actually going to create a counter that summarizes the number of items that we have selected. So when I click here 7 and 4, then it should say 11 up here. So that's what you have to look forward to until next week, and hope to see you then. Bye for now.